segment is the professional, scientific, and technical industries. They will grow. In fact, they expect to be 1.1 million jobs there that will come to that space shortly. But guess what number 2 was? This I think is directly been influenced by President Obama's healthcare plan. The healthcare and social assistance industry is actually the largest one where job growth will occur. 1.2 million jobs. Some of the other ones here that I thought were interesting: construction, transportation, and warehousing. Together, they're 3 different segments, but if you add them up, they probably are larger than both healthcare and the professional scientific. So what does that tell you? That tells you that all those stimulus dollars that went into road projects and construction efforts, they're going to pay off. I think you'll start to see many more jobs in construction, 685,000. Transportation and warehousing, 600,000. Transportation equipment, 400,000. Those are substantial numbers. And finally, it's mentioned here, although much smaller in comparison to everybody else, it's the auto industry coming back finally. You know, after a big downturn in Detroit, I think they're coming back on the upswing. You're seeing Ford do very well. You're seeing some of the other 3 car manufacturers also come back.
You know, I want to tell you about the car industry. Folks, cars are cheap right now. They're going to get so expensive. Because remember, all the inventory is sold out, you know. They're out of it. So now they're manufacturing cars to what you need and how much you're going to buy. For instance, I went to see a truck. I thought the truck, a good, powerful truck, probably will cost $35,000, $70,000, because that truck they had to make, it was not there, nothing on the lot. So it's going to get more expensive. So if you get an opportunity to go get your 0% loan and go get your car, do it now, because it's only going to get more expensive.
Which is good for the U.S., I guess, in a way. I mean, maybe we'll buy cheap cars again from Japan and China and Korea, but on the other hand, I'm just encouraged that the auto industry here in the U.S. is finally picking back up.
And I also want to make sure that the jobs are not exported. Some of these jobs are high-value jobs. Yes, it's a good idea for the Americans to have the high-value jobs, but at the same token, I feel pretty bad individually in the municipalities. For instance, here in Washington, D.C., we are exporting jobs to Maryland, we're exporting jobs to Virginia, and, we shouldn't be doing that. Buy D.C. is what I am nowadays on the crusade of. So I go to the council members and the mayor and the others, buy D.C., buy D.C. For every dollar you spend in D.C., it brings out $1.30 worth of economy. And if you look at it from the top down, you will see the countries have now realized, and they are beginning to put in little restrictions, call it by any name, but they're putting in restrictions not to export that many jobs.
I'm surprised more candidates, local candidates especially, don't run on this platform. Because at the end of the day, yes, businesses all try to globalize, but your economy really has to grow at a grassroots level. And that can only happen if the dollars stay local. We did a story a few months ago about how many cities and counties have come up with their own currency as a way to encourage people to spend their dollars within the community so that they could have community projects grow. It's a political issue. It's an economic, it's a social issue. It's an all-encompassing issue. I think candidates could very well run on this platform and find that there's commonality people feel in their communities regardless of their race, economic state that they're in. People like to be in communities, and if you encourage that, I think you'll help the economy overall.
Urban sustainability. I mean, you need to have businesses stay in the city, and it is, of course, given every city will have high taxes. How do you combat high taxes with competitiveness of suburban areas? How do you compete when doing business with Virginia versus D.C. is 17% higher? I mean, D.C. 17% higher versus Virginia, 19% higher versus Maryland. I mean, how do you compete? So the idea is, you're right, the local governments have to run on those platforms to say, buy D.C. #1.
That, and I think you need to encourage D.C. as a residential living city, which is happening. I think you are seeing lots of neighborhoods become very genteel neighborhoods now with new influx. But at the end of the day, it is helping the tax base of D.C. as well.
That's right. And, in the olden days, folks, you went to suburbs for sleep. But if this continues, you will have people sleeping in the city and going to suburbs for their businesses. You know, you got to admire about D.C. is that it is getting progressive. You remember 25 cents in a meter and you could park for half an hour. I mean, it has to be that we didn't know what we were doing. The value of the meter was not known till now. Still, I think it's very cheap. $2 for an hour?
Depends on where you are in the city. Not all meters are the same.
No, but $2 for an hour in a meter is way too cheap. Now you compare it to regular garage, it's $12 an hour. Now, the new way of paying for your parking is coming up. You know, it's very stressful if you put the coins or charge it for an hour, and then if it takes you 1 hour and 10 minutes, you're sort of all stressed up, you're running around panic, and you might even get a ticket. But the District of Columbia government is saying it doesn't have to be that way, so you can register yourself, pay your credit card, same thing like the Smart Tag. You pay your credit card, and you go ahead and call in and say, okay, I want to be 1 hour. And if it's 2 minutes to an hour, you get an email from them and saying, hey, it's 2 minutes to an hour. Are you going to take longer? If you're going to take longer, just put it in, another 30 minutes, and you will get 30 minutes. You don't have to leave the lunch. You don't have to leave the meeting. Very nice. I think it's extremely progressive of district.
It's brilliant. You know, I think they could even make it one step better by somehow integrating this with your cell phone, so you just scan yourself in. And you can just, re-up from your...
That is Japanese system. That's a Japanese system. It's coming slowly. We're not that
advanced. But this is huge. I mean, no more quarters getting stuck in them. Those were my worst. They would get stuck in them, and you couldn't get them out, and you couldn't get them in. So now you're like, is it out of order? Do I take a picture? What do I do? And then, of course, you'd have the ticket at the end. So.
And no one wants to break those meters because there are really no quarters in there. That's one of the... Hey, that's a crime that gets committed in so many counties.
Well, now they have the other system, those money meter green boxes that you see where you have to print out the receipt and leave it in your car.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea, except that, and if I could raise a complaint with the city, half of those don't work. They don't take your credit cards. You still walk around with buckets of change in your car feeding those things. So, nice try, but you haven't improved that much over your standard meters. So I hope they go out and fix some of these money meter boxes around the city.
No, this is absolutely progressive. I mean, I like it. I like it.
Very impressive. Well, talking about D.C., I am sure many of you saw the provocative article in the Post about paying kids to do well in school.
Yeah.
Time magazine also did the same topic. And it is fascinating that they've actually tried this now in 4 cities, Dallas, Chicago, Washington, and New York City, where they did a different several sets of experiments here, and they found interesting results. I just wanted to read some of these out to you, starting with Dallas. In Dallas, they ran a program for second graders where they paid the second graders $2 per book. So think about it. The second graders, if they're